Hi, good afternoon. I'm Karina Rotenstein. I'm the programmer of the TIFF Industry Conference, and welcome to our masterclass with Mark Korven. You guys are in for a real treat. If you just take a look over there, this will all be explained very, very shortly, but it's very exciting. Just for all of you guys, we have added a masterclass tomorrow morning at 10:30. It is Rob Reiner, so please come back and come have a few laughs with us. It would be great. We are live streaming to the TIFF Live channel and on YouTube, and please feel free to tweet. And usually we say no photography, but for this one, if you guys want to tweet and take some pictures, and go for it. This is the session to do it for sure. So we've had a number of directors in our masterclass series. However, it is important to recognize that many creatives working in film have also spent decades mastering their craft. Presented in collaboration with the Screen Composers Guild of Canada, and a special thank you to them, we salute the work of film composers through one of Canada's leading composers, Mark Korven. Mark is Toronto-based, and he has created film scores, original scores for television and over 60 films, including I've Heard the Mermaids Singing and Cube. He's won 2 Gemini Awards and a Genie Award for his work on Curtis's Charm. His original score to the 2016 period horror film, The Witch, is the essential creative contribution to the film's success as one of the top-grossing independent films of 2016. It grossed over $40 million. I mean, when does that happen? I mean, let's tell you. So, obviously, the film score is important, and it is its own cinematic language, and the collaboration between filmmakers and composers is an essential ingredient. So, let's get on with the show. It is very exciting. Hosting today is Colin Geddes. He is the TIFF programmer of Midnight Madness and the Vanguard programs. Please join me in welcoming Mark Korven and Colin Geddes.
So things are going to get spooky and strange, as you can clearly see from these arcane devices they're musical devices, not torture devices, correct? We'll just keep you guessing. So why don't we just start the scene first by showing one of the clips that you got?
Sure. The first clip, I think, is it's not from the Witch. Actually, it was some period music that I pulled from the I guess it's the 16th century. It's a piece called Lacrimae, and I played it all on Nickel Harpist, which is this instrument that I'll show you later. And it's just an example of what we tried out in the beginning. And Robert Eggers, the director, felt that wasn't the direction he wanted to go. He didn't want any period music in it at all. But I just wanted to play it because it's something that most of you won't get a chance to hear since it's not in the film. And I think I might be narrating this. I'm not sure, though. But
all right. So shall we roll the first clip, then? So we're actually, well, we'll start going backwards. Okay, so we started with The Witch, but we're going to go backwards. How did you get into film composing? Can you talk a little bit about your background? It was originally kind of more of a rock and progressive rock background.
Well, like a lot of kids, I started out playing in basement bands. I used to break dishes on the second floor in my mom's kitchen because we played Black Sabbath songs in the basement. So I started there, and then I got into jazz, rock fusion, sort of progressive music like, King Crimson and Genesis and things like that. And then I got seriously into jazz, and I studied jazz for a few years, and then I became a singer-songwriter, writing my own songs. And then I had my first film just fall into my lap quite accidentally.
And what was that?
That was I've Heard the Mermaids Singing by Patricia Rozema.
And so what was did you find that to be kind of challenging to suddenly have to kind of match her vision with what you had as composer?
It was a little tricky because the situation was I was writing all my sketches on piano because I didn't have any gear at all, so it was writing all these sketches on piano, and I remember playing back all these musical ideas for Patricia, and Patricia looked at me at the end of it and said, "I really hate piano." So we started from there, but it all worked out in the end. It was a good experience in the end.
And so that was kind of an inadvertent kind of introduction to the industry. How did you kind of follow up from there? Did you realize, like, is this what I wanted to do, or did you just kind of see it as something that you would maybe dabble in?
No, I knew pretty quickly, even though it came about fairly accidentally, I knew pretty quickly that it was a natural thing for me, because up until then I'd been a performer, but I really didn't fit that mold very well. And as soon as I found myself in the position of responding to visuals, I thought, oh, this is where I should be. This is where I fit.
So where do you start when you're composing? I mean, is it like a visual cue, or is it an audio cue? Or like, where's the genesis for your ideas?
Well, it's changed a lot over the years. Like when I first started out, this is like way back in the horse and buggy days, where people were cutting their films on Steenbecks, and it was all magnetic tape. There was no such thing as temp music back then, whereas there was very little of it. So you're forced to use your imagination. So you'd watch the visuals, and whatever started coming into your mind, the score would come out of that. But as is so typical for composers nowadays, you're reacting to the temp music, because typically the director's fallen in love with the temp music. Temp music is short for temporary music. That's editors will throw in temporary music while they're cutting, and quite often they get overly familiar with it, and often they fall in love with it. So you're in the position of trying to beat the temp music, or trying to do a sound alike of the temp music. So that's been a real problem which has occurred due to the advances of technology. Like back in the Steenbeck days, you'd go over to your bin, and if you wanted to put in music, you'd have to pull out these reels and razor blades. No one wanted to do that. So now they can use things like Pro Tools, and boom, they can throw that track in 2 seconds. So,
yeah, as a film programmer, we see films in very raw states throughout the summer, and we kind of have to guess where they're going to be going, like on the score, because they always will put in this temp soundtrack. And me doing the Midnight Madness films, I get all the horror films. And the last 2 years, the temp score of choice has been the score from It Follows, which we had in Midnight Madness several years ago. And it's just like, that's always the new cue that they've put. And actually, I think I complained about it on Facebook, saying it's like, oh, yet another score with the score that we had before. And I had a friend who was an editor working on a film which was getting submitted. And the director came to him like, yeah, we're going to put It Follows in there, the temp track. And my friend was like, no. Put something else. That's like, he's a little overloaded. But it was that, and also, Morricone's score from The Thing is another one which is used as in cues in that. So how are you able to like really get them distracted? Like, here's something new and fresh, or like, how do you get them separated from that kind of focus on someone else's music?
It's really difficult. Sometimes it gets to the point where if I hear that they've been cutting for months, and the temp score has been in for the last 4 or 5 months, I know it's pretty well useless trying to get them unwelded from the temp music. But my general approach is try to understand what they're reacting to, what part of it that they've sort of fallen in love with, and I'll try to achieve that in some other way, and hopefully I can go beyond the temp music. So that's what I always set out to do. You know, how can I do better than what they've presented me in the beginning?
Now, within your filmography, it's I mean, only just really a few genre films. Right? I mean, Cube, obviously, Vincenzo Natali's Cube, but the majority of your work is actually in documentary. Can you talk about what the difference is finding the right kind of score and kind of passage for documentary as opposed to like a narrative film?
Well, scoring for documentaries and scoring for feature films are very, very different things because as a general rule, my approach to documentary is sort of to stay out of the way emotionally because you sort of want to view the film in a very objective manner. So you don't want to guide the audience in any way. You know, you're like the objective viewer. So you're staying out of the way emotionally, basically. But in feature films, you're very much trying to engage people emotionally, and you're trying to steer people, you know, to understand what's going on in the scene better. A composer has a tremendous amount of power in how the particular scene is understood or perceived. So very, very different.
Okay, so just to get some more context, shall we watch another clip?
Sure.
Yeah, so but the next clip, though, I believe is a little extreme or suggestive.
It's implied. It's implied, but it's.
We're all consenting adults here, right? Okay.
Have most of you seen The Witch? Has anyone not seen The Witch? Okay, well this is probably for maybe not for the most sensitive of viewers. But
Feel free to close
suggestive.
your eyes and just get caught up in the music as well if you want no spoilers. Okay.
Yes.
So if we kind of take apart that scene, Robert comes to you, I mean, you're looking at kind of the whole picture, but with a sequence like that specifically, can you talk about how you worked with him to kind of bring out that kind of the tone and atmosphere with that sequence?
Yeah, it was a real struggle actually. We had a very good musician friend of mine, Ben Grossman, who's a hurdy-gurdy player, and also plays many different world instruments, but a very talented guy. And we brought him in to provide something extra for the cue, and we just couldn't find anything. It was a very, very long session because Robert wanted something that would, push beyond the temp music. So he pulled out this Finnish instrument called johiku, I think it's called, this ancient three-stringed, it's like a lyre. It's like a three-string lyre with, I think it has gut strings, and you play it with a small bow, and that's the sound of that, that sort of sound. As soon as he heard that, he's like, okay, great, haven't heard that before. Because he likes things that you haven't heard before. So, yeah, that's sort of how that came about.
Okay, let's watch the other clip, and then maybe you can give us a tour of some of your torture devices.
Sure.
So the next clip is what was the next clip? The next clip was the Sabbath.
I don't know. What do you got there?
But the final, the one with the star on it.
The what?
Go grab the next clip.
Okay.
The third one.
Sure.
So with that, there's the vocals. Are you bringing that into the mix?
I suggested a choir. I know of this choir in Toronto that they're called the Element Choir, and they specialize in improvisation. Since Robert he was a real tinkerer, he likes to play with the notes and move notes around. I knew that I had to be very flexible, and I couldn't go scoring out a whole choral piece. That was just not going to work with Mr. Eggers. So we did a session with this choir that specializes in improvisation, and we gave them very general guidelines. Everyone stand one note here, and then swirl around like a bunch of trees on fire here, and then everyone's dead here, and then it's all green. That was the kind of direction we...
Rather than just matching it with their voices.
Yeah, wow. Yeah. The other thing with Robert is we had a lot of guidelines or sort of rules on what we could do musically. So everything absolutely had to be acoustic. There could be no electronics of any kind. So that was a bit of a struggle. And the other thing, everything had to be very, very dissonant almost all the time. So typically when I would write a score, you would have moments that are very consonant. There'd be release, and then there'd be tension. You sort of build the score that way. but he wanted it to be like a 90-minute nightmare that just sort of sits on your chest like a sack of lead. So it was working within those constraints that was really hard. The other thing he didn't want any sense of melody at all. So he didn't want traditional melody, he didn't want traditional harmony. He just wanted something completely strange and out there. So those are some of the rules that I worked with.
Okay. So shall we have a look at some of the toys you have?
Sure. Whoops. Okay, whoops. I have this thing falling out of my back here. Sorry. Hold on, let me see if I can get this back in. Sorry, one sec. It's kind of embarrassing. Okay, there we go. Okay, this thing right here is called a Waterphone. It was invented by an American inventor, Richard Waters.
Got another one.
Oh,
Got
boy.
another mic still hanging here. Hold on one second. Just grab you on your...
Are you going to get paid extra for this?
There we go.
There we go. Okay, great. Cool. Okay, let me just get set up here. 1 second. So I just got to check things out. We're having some technical troubles here. So if I just stop in the middle of it, you'll know why. This performing thing is not something I do very often. Okay. Okay. getting a lot of feedback here. Okay.
So, explain what this device is. Like, this is incredible.
Okay, well, typically, the Waterphone, you actually put water inside it. Haven't put water in it today, but you usually take a little bit of water, so when when you play the thing, like when you bow it, and it'll swoop around, go, "Ew, ew," so that's what that does. It's basically two stainless steel serving trays welded together, and these are brass tines that run around the whole thing. And it's meant to be very, it's like non-diatonic or chromatic. I mean, the notes are intended to be outside any kind of Western scale. That was the intent of it. And you can also play it underwater, actually. Yeah, literally, you can play it underwater.
And so, who made this? Like, where do you find
Richard Waters was the inventor, who sadly is no longer with us. But he's the Waterphone guy. You'll hear this all over horror movies. A lot of horror movies will use this instrument. Sometimes they use the small baby Waterphones, and this is the mega bass. This is the big daddy Waterphone. Yeah.
Wow, that's impressive.
Yeah.
Okay, so what then is your system of wooden boxes?
Yeah, so I'm just looping it around, and I use a few different effects on it. None of this I used in The Witch, because it was like no electronics at all. And yeah, just playing with the loops, basically.
And then your wooden collection over there, what's that?
Oh, okay, well, that's a whole different thing. Okay. Now, this puppy here arrived this morning, and I played this about 2 hours, because it's something that I wanted to build, and I thought, well, hey, we're doing this TIFF thing, quickly build it, and I'll bring it here today. So it's sort of a work in progress. It was built by a very talented luthier friend of mine, Tony Duggan Smith, who was up for evenings trying to get this thing ready for today. It's basically we call it the Kate. What do we call it again? Yeah, the Apprehension Engine. That's the name that a friend of ours came up with. It's basically scary sounds. And can you help me perform this? I'll tell you what to do. I'll tell you what to do.
I mean, I have to point out that there's like kind of 4 metal rulers.
Yeah, these are metal rulers. Yeah, basically. And they do various things. I'll just sort of experiment
Let me know what to do.
A little bit with it. Yes, I will tell you what to do. Okay.
And I think we're getting a little bit of feedback on some of this stuff, so I'm not sure how much can be changed from the booth on that.
Yeah, this is not feedback. This is on purpose right now. This is called an EBO here. This thing, it's basically an electronic magnet that will stimulate the string. Okay, so with these things, get some nice screechy sounds out of this. But my favorite is this sound. So we have that. And also this thing that's sort of like, I think we're getting more feedback here. I think we need to, come take me out of the monitors altogether here. Just if you can cut the monitors altogether. I'm still getting monitors. Oh, sorry, maybe that's just me. Okay, sorry. Anyway, on with the show. Oh, I think that was this thing. Sorry, guys. Okay, so this is like a hurdy-gurdy bow. And your job is to lift this up to here.
Okay.
And then when I tell you, let go. Now the other one. And we also have, I don't know if you can see it, but this is a spring reverb from like a guitar amp. And when you hit it, you get a nice explosion. Or when you play it with an E-bow, you get some crazy stuff that'll happen. Hopefully. And up top, this is kind of cool. Up top we have, if I move this magnet around, I don't know if you can see.
So those are just a series of like earth magnets?
Yeah, so it's like particles of like, you know, springs and little pieces of metal and stuff that's under the magnets. And you just get cool, creepy sounds. And these switches just make noises. They're just they actually don't do anything. But my favorite things are these things that just go on forever.
Do those two, or is that just kind of that?
Yeah, so anyway, that's what it is. Thanks.
But it's almost like it's kind of like a Rube Goldberg machine, which has just been kind of compressed and put together. But so how where does the inspiration for this come from? Like, how do you, I mean, it's clearly a lot of experimentation. Can you talk about your relationship with the person who made this? Like, did you commission this
Yeah.
specifically?
Yeah.
So how do you just like, oh, this makes a cool twonky reverberation noise, can we put it in there? Or do you play around with it to find out where, is it random or is it plotted out? Is it like?
It's pretty random. Some of it we stole. This business here, I saw this online. Someone had built something like that, and I thought it was so cool. So we stole that idea. This is original. That's original. And this Tony came up with yesterday. That whole thing. Yeah, this we just sort of experimented. He's in a workshop, and he had where he builds guitars, and he just happened to have these rulers hanging around, so that's how that came about. And Ben Grossman's a hurdy-gurdy player, so I'm familiar with hurdy-gurdies, so came up with that. And one of the last film scores I worked on, the director fell in love with the temp music, which had spring reverb sounds in it. So that got me into just playing with that business. Yeah.
And so, and what kind of wood are you using here? I mean, everything's like finely honed. Like this is like a nice kind of dark, is like almost like a walnut. Or?
Yeah, I think it's ebony actually.
Okay.
Yeah, a hardwood.
So now that you have this, I mean, do you patent this? Where do you go next with this? Because this is such a unique and amazing thing.
No, I say you're welcome to steal it. No, that's no problem at all.
I mean, it reminds me like when I was a kid, when I would get Heath electronic kits,
yeah.
And you'd realize that like if you touch this spring, you could make a buzzing noise, and if you hit this, I mean, you basically could make your own homemade theremin. But my mom just said it was noise and would make me stop. So, but you turned this into a career. Wow. Wow, that's incredible. Because I mean, honestly, these are just simple metal rulers, but just set at so the inside is just kind of hollow for the
it's a very very light wood, so even like scratching and stuff, it's all extremely reverberant.
Wow.
Yeah.
Excellent. Let's hear it.
And I could play a bit of that as well. So this thing here is, actually, I'm supposed to play it in front of a mic here. Let me just pull this over. Okay, this is a Swedish instrument called the Nickel Harpist. So it dates back to somewhere around 1350, 1400. And this instrument is actually how I wound up doing the music for The Witch, actually. Because I was looking for a way to, to stand out from the cattle call of composers that was trying to get the film. So I thought, this might be the instrument because it's very early music sounding, and it's very scratchy and what it is, it's you have a drone string here. It's basically 4 strings. You have a drone string here, and you have 3 melodic strings. And the notes are stopped with these keys here, so it's kind of the push-button violin of the 1400s, literally. And then you have all these resonating strings here, which I think they grabbed from India. The whole sympathetic string thing, which sort of gives you a reverb chamber. I'll just play a little bit for you. I think one of the things that Robert liked about it is the fact that I'm not a very good nickel harp player, because he liked the little things like, you know, it's really hard to get a nice pure note out of the instrument, but those little frailties. It's very human sounding. So as soon as he heard that, he's like, that's the sound of the score. So that's how I did most of the strings in the score. And plus, I'm a really bad cellist as well, and I had a really bad old cello, so I used that. He didn't want any drums as well. So all the drums are me banging on this old cello.
So you're basically almost like kind of taking the imperfection of things to kind of pull it into the score.
Yeah. He did not want purity and nice, neat sounds. He wanted a lot of this, you know?
I mean, it's incredible, because as soon as you start playing, it's like, oh, that's the sound of the witch. That's that piece. But you would never have guessed that it comes from an instrument that almost looks like a weapon. I mean, it almost looks like you're ready to go into some kind of like acoustic artillery war.
Or a comical weapon or something. Actually, another instrument that I played on it is the bass nickel harp as well. I have one of those. And they're about that big, and they're an octave lower. They're sort of in the range of a cello. So when you hear the witch, the first instrument you hear is the bass nickel harp.
Now, how much are these instruments still in use? I mean, are these just kind of like...
They've actually very much in use, particularly in Sweden, and because of this, the sound of it, you'll hear it a lot in Celtic music as well in Britain. So they picked up the instrument as well. So it's actually becoming quite popular now, believe it or not.
And where did you find yours?
Sweden. It's a Swedish instrument, so I found a Swedish builder.
Wow.
Yeah.
Can you do another little piece on there for us?
No, I think that's about it.
That's
Paul.
all you've got? That's all right. Do we have any questions from the audience? I'm hogging everything here. There's right here in the front row. Yes, there's a mic coming for you, I do believe.
Mark, thank you. It's fantastic stuff. I had a question about the horror pieces, which are just, it's surreal and amazing to watch that live, because if I had heard that in a film, I would have thought that was at least a day or two session and a mix and all that stuff to get that sounding like that. Do you actually, when you're doing that for a film, do you do it in real time like that? And how much post-production do you end up doing, or editing, or mixing after the fact, or do you actually just produce it in real time like that?
Well, that film was actually a very good question. That film was unlike any other film I've done. It was largely improvised, actually, because I knew that I had to keep things very, very loose, because Robert was very much a hands-on director. I mean, when you see a Robert Eggers film at the beginning of the film, it truly is a Robert Eggers film. He is totally the mastermind. It's his artistic vision that I was trying to help realize, you know. So I wanted to keep things very, very loose, very improvised, so that, you know, he could like move notes around whenever he wanted. So, yeah. Did that answer your question?
Yeah. So it's purely, I mean, it's done when you've done it. So, for example, if that had been a scoring session that we were watching, and you were doing that to picture, when it's done, are you finished? You just hand it over, or do you work on it afterwards?
Oh, no. Well, the way it was done was, although it was done very acoustically, again, I knew that I couldn't just record the music and then hand it in. That just wasn't going to work, because Robert, he's a tinkerer. So what I did is I sampled a lot of the instruments that I play, so we could, you know, place them on the timeline, and he could sort of move notes around all he wanted. I needed maximum flexibility when I was working with him. Yeah, so it was a long process, basically. Yeah.
Here, let's see, in the maroon suit, purple suit. Yes. Grab there's a mic coming to you there. You got that? There we go.
Thank you. Yeah, amazing instruments. I was wondering, the long metal plates on the wooden instrument, that one there.
Yeah.
Yeah. The long metal rulers.
The,
Oh, the
what?
metal
The,
rulers.
the metal rulers.
Oh, these guys.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They remind me very much of an old African thumb piano.
Yes. Yeah, very, very much.
That's used, yeah. I
Yeah,
wonder
like
if
a
that's-
kalimba.
That's
Yeah.
the one, yeah. Was there an inspiration?
You know, I didn't think of it until you just mentioned it right now. But
okay.
yeah, no, it is very kalimba-like, actually. Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay.
All right, red and pink there, one after another. Okay, yeah, right here in the front.
Hi, Mark. Thank you for the presentation. It was fantastic. How did your interest in world music and handmade instruments start?
It basically came about due to my limited attention span, because I get bored very easily. So I was playing guitar for a long time, and I thought, I love guitar, but I'm just, I hear all these different sounds, and I just started delving into, first it was violin and fiddle, and then I picked up flutes, and then the nickel harpa, and I was a kid in a candy store. I just wanted to play everything. So it came about due to boredom. Yeah.
And there's, yeah.
Colin?
Yep.
Yeah. I had a director approach me who did a music video for a musician, and the musician decided not to release the song. Then he asked me to write original music for his video. Just wondering how you would approach it.
I'm sorry, could you ask that question again? I'm not sure I quite understood.
There was a gentleman who made a music video for an artist, and the musician pulled out, and he wants me to write original music for his video. Because you were talking about temp music.
Yeah.
So are you a musician yourself, or?
Sorry, I'm not sure. I'm not sure how to answer that. I've never heard of that situation. It's like a rock music video,
Yeah.
and the musician who created the music for the video pulled out.
Yes. He doesn't want to release his music in the end.
So you're basically being asked to kind of come in and kind of fix things, right? Do it.
Yeah.
Just do it. Just go. I mean.
But I mean, there's dancing set to the music. There's different. Would you?
Go with your heart and do it. That's a great chance. I think a whole bunch of people would jump for that one. So that's what I would say. There's a question behind you right there. Grab the mic. Pass the mic behind you there.
All right. So the second clip you guys showed that was incredibly disturbing. I had to close my eyes 10 seconds in. I think I'm already scarred. How do you have the stomach to watch that kind of horror? And I guess you had to watch it over and over again to score it. How do you get are you already do you have a thick skin, or do you have to prepare yourself for that kind of negative energy?
Well, you have to understand that my background is as a documentary composer, so that I'm kind of known as the really dark death and destruction, apocalyptic documentary composer. So I've done that for years and years. So I worked on Shake Hands with the Devil, or Romeo Dallaire, and that was disturbing. And that I had to close my eyes, and it's okay, I can't watch that scene again. That's it. When I watch this, that means nothing to me because it's not real. It's just you're watching a stage play. It has no effect on me. It's reality that has the effect on me, like real horror. That disturbs me.
And in many ways, horror films are almost like the highest point of the art of filmmaking because they're using so many different elements to evoke a reaction. And we were talking with a filmmaker on stage at Midnight Madness the other night. He was just saying, when I make a drama, I can't tell what people are thinking, how they're reacting. It's really only comedy and horror films where you get that immediate reaction from the audience. But another little story, I remember when we went and saw, it was a press screening of Kill Bill. And me and my friends were all oh, this is so bloody, this is so crazy. And then was it Mark Glassman came up to us, a local critic, and was like, well, you know what Godard said? I'm like, oh, great. It's only the color red. So what you're seeing there, hold on, folks, let's just be clear. That's not blood. It's just the color red, and you're interpreting it as that. I mean, it's incredible, the stuff like that is such a subtle scene. And you don't actually really know what is going on.
It's actually tastefully done, I think.
Yeah. Yes. And I'm saying that as a brand new father, okay? So, do we have, yeah, on the side here.
Hello. Yeah, once again, amazing performance. But
Thanks.
I was wondering, with temp music and how everybody's kind of scoring with the same things, like It Follows, what would be your like dream situation to work on a film? Would you prefer that there's no temp music at all and you just have freedom to play? Or would you like to be brought in like early in the process to sort of like build something with the filmmaker as they're shooting?
Well, temp music is really a double-edged sword for me. I mean, I think a lot of composers, if not most composers, temp music is anathema to them. It's just, they just hate it completely. If I'm working on a film and I have no idea what to do, I'm just at a complete loss, having some interesting temp music that might steer me in directions that I would not normally have gone, and the director can let go of that's the best situation. That can be really, really great. Sometimes you get bad temp music, they fall in love with it, you're forced to toe the line and go along with bad music. That's the worst case situation. Temp music, honestly though, temp music, it really makes for lazy composers. In a way, it makes my job easy because it takes me out of the creative process. Right? I just have to sort of copy what's there and collect my paycheck and go home. So you're never gonna do this amazing creative thing. You're never gonna you never allow the possibility of what the score might have been, because all it's going to be is the temp music and maybe a little bit better, maybe a little bit less good,
Would you prefer no music and then just be able to play?
Depends. If I prefer no music, if I'm really inspired by the film, and I have a good idea what to do, I'd rather have no music. If I'm at a complete loss and I need some help, then I would rather maybe have a few suggestions.
I'm curious, now that you've done The Witch, and The Witch has become legendary, are you getting approached now for more genre films? Where has this job led you now?
Yeah, getting a lot of calls for genre films. Unfortunately, most of the calls I get are not of that caliber. That say, it's a lot of this, which I have no interest in doing, because I like The Witch because it's like a Shakespearean play. I mean, the acting is wonderful. It's a very, very rich story. It's not just this. So that's what I really want. I'm really excited about just good work. I just want to be part of good work. So it doesn't have to be, a genre horror film or anything else. It's just give me something great to work on. That's all I want.
And the microphone's already on the way there. Yep.
Hi. Still just on the note of temp music, I find that a lot of times when I edit my own work, it's a lot easier to get the pacing of a project or a picture when there is music to edit to. So, but my question then is to you: when you get a project, whether it has temp music or not, are you ever bothered by the pacing of the cutting and the editing of the shots? And do you ever kind of sit there and go like, oh man, if this shot lasted for another 3 seconds, I would have made this that much more powerful by adding another 3 seconds of notes or something like that? Or is it a relationship that you kind of go back and forth and go to the director and like, hey, could we tweak this shot a little bit because it'll make the music better, which will make the actual effect better?
If you're in early enough in the process, yeah, you can do that. And I have said that in the past. This can be a really nice musical, emotional moment. Let's just stretch that a little bit. So for sure. Regarding temp music, I understand that these days editors and directors, they need temp music. The editor needs temp music to get his cut approved. now. It's like you're not going to get your cut approved without temp score. What I'd like to suggest to people is hire your composer early, get them to pull from their own library of music and use the composer's music and go from there instead of pulling from a John Williams score or whatever. Pull from the actual library of the composer you're working with. That's sort of for me, that's the lesser of two evils.
All right, put your hands together for Mark Korven. Thanks, Paul. That was great.